Let's talk about something truly wild. What if one of the world's most ancient, most important rivers was just vanishing? And what if its disappearance, right down to the exact year, was predicted in a 1400-year-old prophecy about the end of the world? Yeah? Okay, let's get into it.
So this is the prophecy at the heart of it all. It's a really powerful and frankly unsettling Islamic prophecy. It talks about a final, catastrophic war over a mountain of gold that appears as the Euphrates River dries up. And the detail is just shocking. It predicts this unbelievable level of bloodshed where 99 out of every 100 people involved will be killed.
Okay, now let's jump forward 1400 years to today, or, well, 2021. The Iraqi government issues a modern scientific warning. And the timeline they give? The river could be completely gone by 2040. All of a sudden, that ancient prophecy has a very, very modern deadline.
And that's really the big question we're digging into here, right? Is this just a massive, spooky coincidence? Or are we literally watching a prophecy unfold that's been waiting for centuries?
To even begin to answer that, we have to look at what's actually happening on the ground. So let's put the prophecy to the side for just a minute and focus on the hard, scientific reality of a river that is on the absolute brink of collapse.
We're not talking about just any river here. The Tigris-Euphrates Basin, this is literally the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia. This is where writing, laws, agriculture, where it all started for us. The idea that it could just vanish it's almost unthinkable.
And this isn't just a feeling. We've got the hard numbers to prove it. NASA's GRACE satellites have been measuring this, and what they found is that this region has the second fastest rate of groundwater loss on the entire planet. Look at it compared to the global average. This thing isn't just slowly declining, it's in a hydrological freefall.
And of course, a scientific crisis like this has a devastating, real-world human cost. Medical journals are reporting that as the water disappears, horrible diseases like cholera and typhoid are spreading like wildfire. The government can't even provide vaccines anymore, and people are being forced to leave lands their families have lived on for generations. It is a full-blown humanitarian disaster, right now.
So you have this environmental collapse, and what happens next? Well, it becomes a political time bomb. As the water disappears, it's becoming the flashpoint for a massive conflict over what's left, a fight for what many are now calling the new gold.
And this didn't just happen overnight. This fight has been building for decades. You can see on this timeline, countries upstream, like Turkey and Syria, they've been building these massive dams since the 70s. Projects like the enormous Ataturk Dam in Turkey have basically put a chokehold on the river, starving the countries downstream.
What this creates is this intense geopolitical tug-of-war. For Turkey and Syria upstream, the dams give them control and water security. But for Iraq downstream, it means their farms collapse and they face extreme water shortages. So in a huge way, this crisis is entirely man-made.
Which brings us right back to the prophecy. When it talks about a mountain of gold, what are we really talking about? Is it literal buried treasure, or is it something else?
Well, there are a few really fascinating theories. Some people believe it's literal treasure. There are ancient legends that the tomb of the king Gilgamesh is actually buried under the Euphrates. Others think gold is a metaphor for black gold, the massive oil reserves in the region. But a third idea, and one that's getting more and more popular, is that the gold is actually the water itself, blue gold, which is now, without a doubt, the most precious and fought-over resource of all.
Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit, because for millions of people, this isn't just about one prophecy. It's part of a much bigger, much more detailed sequence of events that they believe signals the end of time.
The formal term for all of this is Islamic eschatology, and it's basically what it sounds like, the study of the end times. It's a whole framework of prophecies about the final trials, the major conflicts, and all the events that are supposed to lead up to the Day of Judgment.
And here's another version of that same prophecy, but this one comes with a huge warning. It specifically tells believers, do not take part in the fight for this gold. The message is pretty clear. This whole thing is a great trial, a fitna, and getting involved is a path to destruction.
Now, for many believers, the chaos we've all watched in Syria for the past decade isn't random. They see it as a direct fulfillment of another, very specific prophecy. They point to this exact sequence of events, a great trial that tests everyone, the rise of all these different factions fighting for power, and they see it as the prophesied warm-up act for the even bigger events tied to the Euphrates.
All right, and this is where things get really, really interesting. Because it's not just ancient prophecies pointing to this time frame. Secular scientific predictions are now converging on the exact same timeline.
So get this. Back in 1972, a team at MIT did this groundbreaking study called The Limits to Growth. Using computer models, they predicted that if we just kept going with a business-as-usual approach, industrial civilization would face a major collapse, right around the year 2040. And here's the kicker. A recent reevaluation confirmed that, unsettlingly, we are right on schedule.
So here you have it, two completely different models. One is secular and scientific, the other is ancient and prophetic. The MIT model blames resource depletion. The prophetic model points to the Euphrates crisis as the trigger. But they both point to the same outcome. At the same time, a major global collapse around 2040.
This chart really just lays it all out, side by side. Take the first row. Modern experts at the Atlantic Council say there's a 40% risk of global war by 2035. Islamic prophecy calls this the Great War or the Malhama. Second row. The MIT model points to system collapse around 2040. Prophecy calls this a time of widespread fitna, or trials. And the trigger, a real-world water crisis on the Euphrates, lines up perfectly with a prophecy about a fight over gold. The parallels are just impossible to ignore.
But according to the prophetic timeline, this incredible period of chaos, it's not actually the end of the story. It's seen as the necessary darkness before the dawn, the prelude to the arrival of a promised leader who will bring order back to the world.
This figure is known as Al-Mahdi. In Islamic eschatology, he's a messianic leader who is prophesied to show up right in the middle of all this final chaos, to basically clean house, to get rid of all the evil and injustice and fill the world with peace.
So what's his job, exactly? Well, the prophecies say he'll emerge from the ashes of these great wars, unite all the believers who are left, and establish a global system of justice where there was once only tyranny. And, in the end, he's meant to confront the ultimate evil figure, a being known as the Dajjal, or the Antichrist.
And this brings us back to where we started. As we watch scientific models and ancient prophecies all pointing towards the year 2040, we have to ask the big question. Are we looking at a genuine roadmap for what's to come, or are these prophecies just a powerful mirror reflecting our own very modern fears about climate change, war, and collapse? That, I think, is for you to decide.